good afternoon to you all, and welcome to another Malta Business Network webinar, which is being organized for the members and friends of the UK and Malta chapters. Those of you that do not know me, my name is Josef Formosa, and I'm addressing you this afternoon in my capacity as chairman of the Malta Business Network Foundation. Today's webinar title is The Tourism World Beyond COVID-19. Tourism in Malta is the largest economic sector, and we should be hearing more about this from our distinguished moderator speakers, all of whom are connected with tourism. And I thank them all for their participation. As moderator, we do have Josef Formosa Gauci, who is a CEO of the Malta Tourism Authority, and he does actually hold various directorships in quite a few companies on the island. As our panelists, we do have Johann Buttigieg, who is the current CEO of the Malta Tourism Authority, and Tony Zahra, who is the president of the Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association. Last but by no means least, I would like to thank you participants for finding the time to join us this afternoon. Can I now pass it over to Josef?
Joe, thank you very much indeed for your welcome, and thank you for asking me to moderate this afternoon's panel. I thank Johann and Tony both for joining us, two people that I'd say are today in the unenviable position of leading the industry through probably one of the most difficult times it has ever been through. Just to kick off, I think if we can give a little bit of a background to the industry. Tony, I'm sure will agree that MHRA has, over the years, always stressed the importance of the tourism industry within the overall Maltese economy, something that even MBN uses in its bargaining with the Ministry of Finance. I'd say that not everybody always quite accepted the overall importance of tourism. For the last 10 years, people have taken for granted increases. People have taken for granted increases in bed stock, etc., etc. Come the middle of March, Malta shut its doors, and suddenly people started realizing without tourists, there's a problem. Tone, if we can take one positive thing out of this for the industry, can we say that at least COVID has shown to everyone that tourism is undoubtedly fundamental for the well-being of Malta's economy?
Yes, yes. I take issue a little bit with what you said, that this is probably one of the worst. It is not probably one of the worst. It is the worst crisis that we have seen since I was born, and that's a long time ago, yes. So, as regards the importance of the tourist industry, the importance of the tourist industry is not only to the hotelier or the restaurateur. The importance of the tourist industry is to the whole economy. When you've got an economy of 12 billion euros and the tourism industry is 2.1 billion, that's a big chunk of the economy that you're taking out. You know, I go to Valletta regularly, so do you. I haven't seen a carrot scene in the streets of Valletta since the shutdown. So in reality, it affects everybody. And we have a situation also where it's affecting the farmer. I am told that lots of produce is going into the market and very little is being bought. So in reality, as we say in Maltese, from tourism, everybody gains, and it percolates right down to all levels. Worldwide, it is 10.6% of total employment worldwide. So it is not only important for the Maltese economy, it is important for the world economy.
Correct.
What else is there to say?
Johann, do you feel that your hand is slightly stronger when going to the Ministry of Finance asking for funds to help the industry?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you and Mr. Zamin Tabwana for the opportunity. Yes, for sure. Both the Malta Tourism Authority and the Ministry for Tourism are in a much stronger position. First of all, because let's put facts. Nobody ever realized how much important tourism is. We always assumed how much tourism is important, but today we actually know how much tourism is important, both for us locally, being such a small island, and also for, I would say, the international community. And I would say we're not starting from zero today. We are starting from minus with a huge amount, because the challenges that we are facing at a European perspective, these are even more greater, I would say, because unemployment we have managed to control, we have managed to suppress the unemployment, but in many European countries, unemployment has exploded. Where unemployment has not exploded, there's an issue of hundreds, if not thousands, of people actually consumed their leave. So even if they want to come for a holiday because they have the financial means to come for a holiday, they don't have the time to come for a holiday. So all this has actually placed a bigger pressure on us to actually incentivize even further the tourism industry.
I agree. And I think you mentioned the unemployment. I think the 800 euros, we'll probably talk about later, but the 800 euros per employee that has been given, I think has been a lifesaver to the industry, who otherwise would have gone through a period of mass redundancies without doubt. If we can take the last 3 months, a lot of companies during this time have taken a step back, looked at their operations, looked at their strengths, looked at their weaknesses, looked at where to go, how to go forward. Have we, as an industry, both overall as MTA and even MHRA within its members, have we noticed people actually taking a step back and saying, the type of industry we want going forward needs to adjust in this way, needs to adjust in that way? Has this process been gone through, both within MTA and in the industry? Johann, if you'd like to take that first.
Yes, for sure. There are, I can say that we have two types of business people. There have been business people that have actively, and they have quite successfully managed to reorient their business model. And I would even say that some of them have actually done even better than they were doing before. Others have actually sit down, looked at what is happening, and is being quite reactive. So with regards, and this obviously relates to restaurants, I wouldn't say it would relate to hotels, because obviously hotels can only operate once you have tourists, because otherwise it's useless to operate a hotel without tourists. Our local consumption is very limited, and I would say that only Gozo, for the time being, has actually reaped the fruit to actually say that they have been in a better position than they were last year. Because even if we see the amount of people that have booked, and even the rates in Gozo have actually went up. They didn't go down. On the other hand, businesses like hotels, private accommodation, and so on, yes, they have obviously been hit with a brick of tons. So,
but at MTA level, have we considered whether maybe we need to focus going forward more on quality tourism. Let's not make
Yes.
numbers the all and
For the time being, our primary targets are the age groups between 21 and 55 years of age, and we are targeting 100-kilometer radius from the airports that we are operating with, because obviously for the time being, we feel that the numbers are still very important, irrespective of the quality. But yes, we have already started also with discussions with a number of the higher class hotels to actually even promote and see what is necessary to go in the luxury industry. We have already applied for a number of fairs, and we are instilling a huge amount of income that needs to be dedicated for quality rather than the quality. Obviously, we are taking this as the opportunity to balance off that.
Okay. Tone, do you feel within the industry there have been people both at MHRA and at member level that are looking and saying, let's take stock and what type of industry you want to see going forward, what vision there is for the industry?
Yeah, look, we have a situation now where, first of all, during the last 3 months, and this is very positive, MTA has come out with a soft product renewal in terms of training. So that is a very good initiative to spend money on training our people. So in terms we have been doing in the last 3 months, the industry hasn't sat back and done nothing. Through MTA, they've arranged these soft training skills, soft skills, upgrading of the soft skills, which is very positive. The other situation that we have is vision. I think the vision cannot be just the tourism vision for the island. We have a land area of 331 square kilometers, and we need to have a vision of where we want to go forward. I was always a bit skeptical about the idea of bringing huge numbers of people from abroad to grow the economy. I would have been more inclined to grow the economy by increasing the skills of the Maltese and thereby growing the economy that way. So in terms of tourism, should it be what it is today, or should it grow bigger, or should it grow smaller? I think we're conditioned by our size as to the decision of that factor. And also then you have the situation where you need to have a balance in the economy. You cannot have a part of the economy which is too big, because if you have a problem in that area, then you have a massive problem for the island's economy. And there are a couple of sectors where the economy is overexposed. If you take the banks, for example, the bank will always have a limit on a particular sector of the economy. So shouldn't we be doing the same thing on our economy going forward? And I think that this is what we've got to decide. Once you have decided where you're going to go, then you have going to decide how you're going to achieve that. Johann was talking about going upmarket. I think that if you're going to be restricted in terms of the numbers, and the size does restrict us on numbers, then you should be thinking in terms of how do I maximize on the numbers that I'm receiving. And I think that you maximize is by being the best in every sector. You don't need to be the best only in your luxury. You can be the best in your 4-star and your 3-star and your 2-star, But being the best has to be our objective. We have got a product which, frankly, we did nothing to produce, i.e. Malta, we did nothing to produce apart from making it nicer now, but it was built 300, 400 years ago. So we found it there, you know, and we've got a lot of other things that we can produce as quality, which other countries do not necessarily have. So this is where we have got to, in my opinion, where we have got to focus on.
I agree. And I'm sure it's something that as MHRA, I have no doubt you will be quite vociferous in pushing forward over the next few months. If we now move on to, I think, something that the industry is very much asking. Next week, 1st of July, we start with certain flights returning to Malta. 15th of July, we open with no or limited, very limited restrictions. Johann, I think one thing that the industry at the moment is still very uncertain about, and I do appreciate it's something that's developing, I'm sure, every day, if not every hour, is something in terms of what seat capacity are we looking at this summer. Obviously, the number of tourists that we're going to have is totally dependent on the seats. If the seats are there, then we have a chance of filling them. If the seats are not there, then we don't have that chance. So I think the first thing one would be asking at the moment, what is the seat capacity that we're looking at for the next 3-4 months?
So at the moment, we are looking at a capacity of 70% of what we had in 2019. With the airlines are considering that an average of 40 to 50% load factor would actually be in place. From what we can see at the moment is that obviously the capacity is almost 70%, yes, by the time we are speaking, because as you well said, we are having feedback from a number of interested companies and also new markets cropping up. So this 70% we will be able to reach by September. At the moment we're around 55 to 60%, and there are a number of routes that have exceeded the 40% threshold. They are in the region of 60%, whilst there are others that are in the region of 30%. And this, obviously, we are working on a daily basis to ensure what type of marketing we need to provide, what type of tourist support schemes we need to provide, and also with certain categories of hotels, we are also, we came up with an incentive to obviously promote.
This is going to be my next question, in fact, Johann. I mean, the fact that you're telling us seat capacity is going to go up to 70%, I think is excellent, because there's been a lot of worry. Is it 30, 40, is it 20%? So we managed to get this available to 70%. That is excellent, and it takes us to the next step, which is exactly what you're saying. Could you share maybe what marketing, what specific niches are being targeted, so that the people out in the industry can even their own marketing in the right directions?
Yes. Obviously, we understand that, as I said before, the type of persons that would want to travel in this period, because obviously you might have others that would like to travel, but being either mobile restricted or because they have certain problems in this ambience of coronavirus, that we need to instill the feel-good factor. So the ranges of people between 21 years of age and 55 years of age are the most suitable to travel, and therefore we are targeting those sectors. We are targeting those that obviously can come for shorter break. That we obviously know that those that spend 7 days would be very few, because as I said before, many people have problems in actually having leave issues. So we are targeting those that are for 4 to 5 days max, turning around quite frequently, and also we are trying to maximize their expenditure whilst they are in Malta. Obviously, for the time being, until we set off, especially in July, one needs to reconsider his rates, because I was speaking also with some businesses that were looking at 130, 140 euros per night. I think they are still dreaming for those in July. I'm not saying that this is not possible in August, but as I said, people need to understand that the competition out there is not between the hotels in Malta, but they are between the hotels at a European level. So
fair enough.
We need
so
to
I think two things.
with regards
regards
to what are we doing, obviously we have saved a huge amount of money. I would say we saved about 8 million euros for marketing between the months of February and June. Obviously, we will be spending those, so we didn't actually save them, but we just reserved them to come out even stronger now that the market can obviously react. And we are going to more targeted oriented, more specific oriented with regards to blogs, video campaigns, and destination, where we obviously are showing what we want to portray out there.
Okay.
Obviously, anything that we use is available to all the industry stakeholders. So please contact our marketing department, and we can provide you with all the necessary footages and advertising packages that we have.
Perfect. I'll come back to you on incentives in a minute, Johann. But just before I ask Tony something, just to clarify, because a question has come in, Johann, and I don't want any misunderstandings. You are saying the target is people between 21 and 55, but you are not excluding anybody over 55 from flying.
No. Neither over the 55, nor under the 21.
Exactly.
But obviously,
I thought we should clarify that question.
Our major focus would be for those type of people. In fact, at the moment we are discussing with a particular brand to bring over 40,000 people for partying activities. So obviously there are certain niches that we need to obviously attract even further.
Okay. So, and I turn to you. Obviously, if we're hearing that seat capacity is now at 70% of what it was last year, I think that should be music to your ears and the ears of all hoteliers and restaurateurs. It came also with a request of let's not be too greedy with our rates. How do you feel hearing these figures and that request?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that you're not going to exclude the over 55s, Johann, because
I said I'd ask because I knew it wasn't the case, and a question came in. I'm very close to it, Tony. I might exclude myself.
I'm very happy. Look, 70%. If we reach 70% seats availability, then it will be fantastic. We will have just done a great job. Under the present conditions, it would be beyond what my best expectations were. So, from that point of view, we now have a situation where we have got to make sure that those seats are filled. One thing that's for certain is that our members, or most of our members, will react positively once they're open, and if they open, to the fact that the seat capacity is there, and therefore will try to ensure that they get occupancy. Occupancy, you can get it in a number of ways, one of which is by giving a rate which is competitive. Not necessarily only a rate that is competitive, because there are other ways of being competitive in the marketplace, but I am sure that there will be a positive reaction and it will be a competitive offer that the hotels will make to the outside world. You know, we're no longer in a situation where people bury their heads in the sand. If they're open, they will want the occupancy and they would want to generate the cash, because without any occupancy, you're not going to generate any cash through the door. So, Johann, I'm pretty convinced that there will be one or two that will stick to a rate and say, well, we're not going to lower it, but one or two is not 100%. So you're going to get a lot that will be competitive on the rate. Of course, one must also not forget that occupancy is one figure that you look at when you're in the business of running a hotel, but the room rate is the other figure, because if you had a budget of 70% occupancy with 150 euro room rate, and all of a sudden that room rate has gone down to 75, you're way beyond a break even if you're 100% full. So then the decision is going to be a one where, which is the most convenient, to lower the room rate and increase the occupancy, or perhaps lower less the room rate and have a reasonable occupancy. Yeah, this is a decision that has to be taken by each individual according to how many rooms they have, according to what the break-even level is, according to how many overheads they have. Yeah. But one thing is certain is that our industry is very aggressive and they will go for getting the business through the door.
In Johann's last sentence, I think there was something very interesting that I don't want to let pass without maybe getting your comment, Tony. I detected, correct me if I'm wrong, Johann, that there's going to be, you're focusing on another sort of niche that you want to grow this summer, which is the party type tourism. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, obviously, as I said before, we are fighting for each and every client that we can bring over to Malta. So yes, there was an offer and we are looking at it very seriously. And obviously, we will be considering also this type of tourism.
Are you sort of seeing that in some of our competitor destinations? We saw Greece, Spain, etc., and their nightlife being very restrictive. Are you taking that way of tapping into something that other people are going to not be able to?
Yes, obviously. These were events that were being organized or in other countries. Other countries have, as I said, more serious problems than what we have actually at the moment. So it is obviously time for us to actually hop on that stream, that obviously if we will manage to get this type of business to Malta, it may actually leave a ripple effect for a longer duration.
A question that arises out of this, which links to something I was going to ask, but it's come up, I'll adapt it, is obviously it is extremely important that the health authorities have done a great job in bringing us where we are today, even the fact we've had 2 days in a row with no cases whatsoever being registered, which is an excellent marketing tool moving forward. One of the things that people both in the industry and outside are asking is, how safe are we going to be once we open our doors? Other countries are being very restrictive in terms of their tourists coming in, not allowing these type of parties, etc. We are. Do we have the right controls and enforcement in place to make sure that whilst we do attract this new niche, we're not going to at the same time risk our safety?
So, well, I think up to now we have managed to strike a very good balance. Obviously, as we have always said, we were one of the first countries to actually close off to a number of airports. And then at the end of it, we closed to all airports. obviously, we are taking this in a stepped approach. Even our protocols, we have designed them in such a manner that we can add or remove conditions as need be. Up to now, I can say that the industry in general has actually cooperated fully with the Malta Tourism Authority. And as long as we will continue to find these collaborative measures, yes, we will manage to succeed in combating the COVID situation. If there will be an outbreak, obviously we will be more than ready to use all our force to actually come down very hard on those that will be in breach of their license conditions.
Tony, do you feel a good niche for us to be targeting aggressively this summer?
Josef, what are the alternatives?
Fair enough. Obviously, we need to try and we seem to be going more volume rather than rate, so we need to then make sure that we work on rate at the same time. But time is...
I wish to agree with you on the volume, because at the moment we don't have volume. We have nothing. You know, I think Johann was very correct in saying, look, the likelihood is that the 2155s are more likely to get on a plane and travel
For sure.
Abroad than the over 55s. So the target seems to be the age target seems to be correct age target. Now, if we had 40,000 altar boys, would we have 40,000 altar boys, or would we have 40,000 party goers? I don't know. We would be able to choose between one or the other. But do we have altar boys coming, or?
I don't think you'll find 40,000 altar boys. Before moving a bit on to winter, because I'm conscious of our time constraints. Johann, there are people that are asking, not hoteliers, but people with restaurants, shops in Valletta, etc. Are we likely to see any movement on the cruise industry side this summer?
Yes, yes. Well, we have already started a number of discussions with the major cruise line industry, because normally we try to, we end up focusing only on the airline industry. But yes, we have had very good discussions with two of the major cruise industry. In fact, they intend to start operating as from August, from the first week of August. They will be operating at 50% capacity, because what we have agreed is that they will be filling up one cabin, the other, and alternating each and every cabin, so that they would ensure that they will have time to actually disinfect and thoroughly clean up that cabin. And if they would have also a case on board, obviously they can deal with it very well by obviously removing other passengers and relocating them within the same ship.
Okay.
We have given certain guarantees to the cruise line industry, and they are happy to actually work with Malta. As I said, we are looking at data on a daily basis. We are following the World Health Organization dashboard continuously. We are looking at the EASA, the European Aviation Safety Association, and their recommendations. And as I said, we are taking this in a step-by-step approach, but we want to make sure that we open up in a safe manner, and we want to ensure that our safety is the first priority, but at the same time, getting all the people that need to travel, and we are targeting as much as possible.
Fair enough. It might be too early for you to say, will these cruise ships be more foreigners coming in or more people leaving, starting a cruise from Malta in terms of Maltese, I'm saying, not the cruise.
Up to what we have discussed up to now is for them to come over to Malta, not from cruises to start from Malta.
Okay. Okay. One other question, again, before I go to winter, but there are a lot of questions coming in from our audience. Language schools. Obviously, they're another sector that has been completely devastated over the last 3 months. Do you see that section of the market picking up over summer? Obviously, I would have thought, especially in the juniors, the under 20s that we normally have at this time of the year in July and August, they'd probably be more reluctant to be traveling. Their parents would be more reluctant to send their unaccompanied children. What feedback are you getting from that section of the market?
Well, the biggest problem is actually the exams that have been delayed as well. So even in this sector, there are certain elements that obviously do not augur well for the industry to actually take place, because many of the students have their exams in October. So unlike previous years where you had June as your examination period, and then you had a holiday and at the same time studying, now obviously you will have to add your proper studying within the time frame. So it will be a problem for the school industry. But even here we have mixed feelings, I would say, from the industry. We have people that are saying that there is no interest whatsoever, whilst we have others that are saying that they still are receiving bookings from their counterparts to come over to Malta. So in there, we need to work a little bit more to try and attract as much as possible.
Fair enough. Can I take this opportunity to ask anybody that wants any questions asked to send a question as we're going through? I'm taking note of a lot of the questions you're sending in, and I am asking them. The language school question, for example, is one particular one that just came in. If we were to move from summer to winter, let's start moving forward, Johann and Tony. Winter obviously is a much more difficult time of the year for the industry. It's a time of the year wherein the five-star market is very strong on MICE business, and in the leisure market tends to be stronger in the over 55s, shall we say. With the difficulties in both these sections of the market, what are we envisaging for winter, and how are we planning on changing those figures?
Johann, you want to?
As you wish, if you want to take the floor.
You're doing brilliant. I'll let you.
So, well, our primary target is to fill up the first 3 months of the summer. As we said, we are going to have a summer. We have been working for the last 2 months to ensure that we get where we want to get. With regards to the MICE, as we are going at the moment, incentivizing the tour operator support scheme and the airlines heavily, we will also be giving out incentives for the MICE industry, for the DMCs and so on. So, Josef, I can say that up to last year, and a tourist used to cost the Malta Tourism Authority about 34 euros per person. From what we are calculating today, we are calculating that our help would go up to about 146 euros per person. So the amount of support that we will be giving to attract tourists over to Malta is commensurately huge.
Is that's first of all extra news. I think it's very good that we're using our funds to get the numbers, because that's exactly what the industry needs. Would you maybe like to give some more detail, Johann, on how what incentives there are going to be? Is it more for tour operators? Is it more for airlines? Is there ways that hotels are going to be incentivized with their bookings? How exactly are you going to attack it?
It is a mix of all. I would not just say that it is tour operator support. I would not say it is just airline support. I would not just say it's marketing. Obviously, I tend to not divulge a lot of information, because obviously we are in a competing market, and then we end up having our competitors either copying us, and obviously we are a small island with limited budget comparatively to other regions. So we must be very careful what we say and what we don't say. But as I said, we have obviously approached all our tour operators. We have given them very good incentives to promote. In fact, what I consider our tour operators as the concierge of Malta. So we want to ensure that any person that goes in or to a tour operator, Malta will be the first to be shown to that client. With regards to the airlines, we have obviously stepped up a lot in our marketing support to the airlines, and also to many of the other marketing strategies that we have. Obviously, as I said, we are moving away from the printed material because we think that at this time, and our targeted audience are more now going online and viral, and obviously we'll be inviting also a number of influencers here to Malta to ensure that we get the maximum exposure possible.
Okay, one
if I may.
more question, and then I'll move over to Tony, if you don't mind. But I'm getting so many people asking exactly the same question. We're talking 70%, we're talking load capacity, etc. People are asking. So for the next 6 months, and I know this is not the easiest of questions, what number of tourists are we expecting?
So I can say what target we have made for ourselves. I cannot say what are we expecting. We have made a target for ourselves that it is around 700,000 tourists till the end of December. This would be in the region of practically what we had around 2008, 9, something like that. Hopefully, if we manage to get even further than the 700,000, I would be doing a challenge. I cannot say what I would be doing if we reach more than 700,000, but I would leave it to your imagination.
I can imagine even reaching the 700,000 between now and December
is a task, yes.
Would be excellent, because that probably means we'll end up there making the very good start that we had, reaching probably very close to the million mark for the year, which would be excellent. Tony, in the way safety, etc., is becoming more important in people's minds, over the last number of years, we've seen a shift from collective accommodation to non-collective accommodation. Do you think this is a time where hotels can be perceived as being a safer place to stay in, and hence they'll be able to claw back some of the market share that they've lost?
Yes, Josef, in reality, the shift has come not because people wanted to go into non-collective accommodation. The shift has come because the difference between a rate of going into a hotel as against going into a non-collective has been quite large. As we are saying, we're going to see now the rates coming down in the hotels. So the difference is going to be smaller. And the consumer, I think, will decide it's better if I go into a hotel because the difference is going to be minute than going into a non-collective accommodation. I think this has happened previously in another lifetime when the rates of the hotels came down, and what we used to call the self-catering at the time, Josef, the difference was very small, and people would go into the hotels. If the difference was high, then there would be a section that would choose to go into non-collective. But coming back to the winter traffic, we have got two distinct market segments. We have got the MICE traffic, which tends to be much more longer term in planning and actually coming to fruition. So we have got a short lead-in time here for the MICE to come in January, March period, because we're talking of less than 6 months now, 6 or 9 months if you're coming in March. But the traffic could still be there, and we need to see how we're going to attract that MICE traffic. And then we have got the winter breaks. As Johann said, the winter breaks used to be mainly for the older person, but we have seen a change in consumer demands with the incoming low-cost airlines, consequently lower rates to get to Malta, and it has brought in quite a lot of city center, what we term city center business, where people come for a long weekend, Thursday to a Monday. So that is traffic that we can also seek to attract to Malta. Events is another thing that we can attract these people with. Of course, events are less likely to happen in the winter. However, we have a situation now that the event organizers haven't been able to organize events during the summer, so they might be inclined to host events during the winter period in order to make up for lost revenues, because everybody's losing his revenues. So I am not, it's a challenge, but I am not quite pessimistic about the winter. I'm very pleased to hear Johann talking about 700,000. I can assure you that the MHRA, if we get the 700,000 and over, MHRA are going to have a big party, and you're going to be our guest of honor, Johann.
Exactly.
And I will open the champagne to celebrate.
Excellent. 31st of December, we'll remind you of that, Tony. Johann, one question that's come in.
We will try our best. That I can assure you.
Exactly. One question that's come in, Johann, somebody's asking, and it could be something that from your previous answer you won't be able to give any details on. Somebody's asking and saying, apparently they heard, are there some incentives for hotel chains in attracting bookings, in using their own channels?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Okay,
yes. I can state that because obviously it is very similar to what we are offering also to other schemes. We have obviously started to approach a number of all the hotel chains where we are giving up to €100 per booking for those that actually promote Malta through their loyalty card system, and hopefully not just giving the €100 from MTA to the hotel chain, but we want that the hotel chain also provides that extra luxury to the industry. So we are giving €100 for all 5-star hotels and €50 for all 4-star hotels that have an affiliation with the chain, so that obviously they can promote Malta within their loyalty schemes. Obviously, a question would come up, and the others that do not have or that are not affiliated with.
That's exactly a question that just came in now.
What incentives will there be to them? Obviously, for the time being, we are trying to pull out all our nets so that we try to attract as much as possible. And we are looking at what we can actually provide as incentives to other smaller hotels that are not affiliated with the chain, but obviously might have some bookings to their own system. And we are looking at that as well.
Excellent. I know time is pressing. I'm trying to take on as many questions. I encourage people, if you have other points, please send them. If we were to look a little bit beyond the immediate, the summer, etc., 2021, we're going to be coming out, obviously, of a very difficult year for the industry. Can we be confident that in 2021 we'll start well on the way to a full recovery for the industry, obviously barring any unexpected events happening beyond our control?
So, as everybody knows, January and February 19, they were the best ever results that we ever had. And obviously, we will be working to ensure that the strategy that we had for 2019 will continue even more, because now we are incentivizing even more. As we said, our rate of return previously was 1:8, and even more. Now we are looking at to have a rate of return of 1:6. But as long as there is a rate of return, we will continue to push.
Excellent. Any idea, because obviously it's a question a lot of people are asking, when are we going to return to 2019 numbers? Some people have said 2023, some people have said 2022. I'm sure it's all guessing, but what's your gut feeling about that?
No, my gut feeling would be 2022 and beginning of 2023. I cannot see it before to reach the 2.9 million tourists. And to say the truth, I don't know even if we want to go to the 2.9 million tourists, whether it would be time then to actually start looking at more the quality than the quantity. So I think we had the opportunity because as Tony stated, it is not just numbers that we need to look at. We need to look at the quality. We need to look at what are we giving our guests. And giving our guests is not just the 5-star guests or the 6-star guests. We can give quality in each and every star rating that we actually provide. What I can say is that the applications for new hotels that we are looking at the moment, we are not allowing, for example, the use of exemptions. So anyone coming below the threshold at the moment as a tourism authority, we are actually refusing because we want to start improving the quality that we are offering.
That's good. Tone, a last question for you, because I know unfortunately time is pressing. You mentioned this slightly before, the issue that I think the industry over the last few years has depended a lot on foreign workers coming in over here, working part-time within hotels, within restaurants. Over the last 3 months, we've seen quite an exodus of these overseas workers going back home. How's the industry now reopening going to face this challenge? Are we going to see a shortage of labor? Are we going to see an increase in labor costs? What's your expectation from the side of the hotels and the restaurants?
Well, Josef, increase in labor costs. I always mention my friend in Switzerland who runs a restaurant with a waiter service serving plated. When I go to him and he has an 80-seater restaurant, I see 2 Swiss waiters there, 2 Swiss waiters with 80 seaters. And I ask him, well, how much do they cost? And he says, 4,000 euros a month each. But they're serving 80. They're not serving 20. They're serving 80. So the cost is only the first element. How much actually do you get in terms of value. And we must start looking at value, not just how much does it cost, but how much value are we getting out of the service? How much value are we getting out of the person that is giving that service? And we also need to start understanding that people come for a Malta experience. If I want to be served by some other country, I will go to the country where those services are come from, and we can't afford any more loss of Malta experience. So two things. Let's not think in terms of how cheap it is. Let's think in terms of value. How much value does that person add to the product? And secondly, what does it do to the Malta experience? I think we've got to start thinking about this, and we have to have a vision. The last plan for tourism ended last year.
Yep.
We need to have a 15-year vision. Where do we want this industry to go? And I'm hearing Johann. I'm very pleased to see that there's a growing discussion about a vision. We have an excellent product. The hard side of the product is very good. We have got Valletta, we have Medina, we have a lot of things which are right. We must also ensure that our soft side is also excellent. So this is what I recommend to everybody, to look not only at how much does that cost, but how much value does that add, and then decide on how much value as against how much cost. Johann, I'm sure that you have some ideas on this side too.
Yes.
It's brief, if you mind, Johann, because we're going to have to wrap up in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree with Tony, and I can say that we have excellent communication between us as an authority and the industry. We are open for discussion with anyone that has valid ideas. Rest assured that we will take them on board immediately. From our side, as Tony mentioned earlier, we embarked on a €5 million project to actually upskill the soft skills of our workers. This will not be just for this year. Hopefully, we will manage to continue and reproduce this level of training, because we feel that one thing that we actually lacked, even because we were too occupied in serving the tourism industry, is actually the retraining and the reskilling of our people. And there, I truly believe that we need to continue to focus and to continue to support the industry. With regards to what else can be done from the MTA side, I can assure that we will be doing anything that is possible, but the question should not only be addressed to the MTA, but also to each and every individual, and they need to ask the question, what can I offer better to our customers? How can I reduce my costs? Because reducing the cost is actually making it more profitable for the organization, because obviously you need to sell much less to make the ends meet at the end of it.
Thank you very much to both of our speakers. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. There are a number of questions still coming in. I've tried to take as many of them as possible. I would like to thank both Johann and Tony. I use not just my words, but the words of somebody that's listening to us from Guernsey, who's commented that he appreciates the candor and frankness of the two speakers. And I very much concur with that, and thank both of you for the insight you have given us into what we're to expect over the next months, or what we're to expect over the next year. And I must say, even from the comments I've heard, that Johann, I think you've managed to give a bit of a cheer to a very worried industry, and everybody's fingers crossed, as Tony said, will be opening champagne hopefully at the end of the year if we manage to get close to that 700,000 figure. Thank you very much to all of
Thank
you.
you, Josef, and thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. Amitabana.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I've got the champagne on ice already.
Excellent.
And I get the glasses, don't worry.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.